Okay. All right. Well, anyway, I can't remember that day if there was anything specific, Josh. It might have been about the videos or something, but I'll
Yeah, that's
track
what it
you down
was.
sooner or later if there's, actually, if Michael, can you stay on for a few minutes?
Me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, because actually the second thing on the agenda under old business, the parks publicity, I think it would be really useful if you listened in on that for a few minutes with Michael.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, because he's, the one who's going to probably be following up on this. And we had a good discussion. He had some great ideas last month about that I'm hoping we can briefly touch on. Just touch base with you because you would be a key element in it. So, all right. Well, do you count somebody as a quorum when all you see is their blank
As long
square?
as we can hear him.
But we haven't heard them yet.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm driving in the car,
Okay.
so
All right.
I don't really have the ability to do video currently.
Yeah.
But
Well,
yes,
that's
I'm
good.
here.
We're counting you here until as long as you're not muted. So or not as long as well, whatever. You're here. All right. So we have a quorum. This is the Open Space Committee meeting. What's today? The
23rd.
23rd, the 23rd of January 2025. I'm Eileen Heide, the chair of the committee, and members present are Maureen Manasian and Michael Sylvia, who is calling in. And his name comes up as M Design, but we know that to be Michael. So we have a quorum. First item, approval of the meeting minutes of December 19th, 2024. Maureen and or Michael. Michael may not be able to.
Okay, I'll approve, sorry, brain for it. I'll ask for approval for it.
All right.
I'll second
Michael?
the motion. Yep.
All right, good. And I approve them. I drafted them, so the minutes are approved. Any public comment on any item not otherwise listed on the agenda? We have one member of the public here, Pat Neary, and she says no, she has none. So, all right, let's move on to old business. One thing I'm going to do right now, Michael, tell me if this does not work for you or if another time on the agenda would be better. I asked Josh to stay on for a few minutes if he could and hear a little bit about the discussion we had last time about the publicity and getting a group together, the idea you had about kind of trying to figure out who's doing what and where it should go and all the various website locations. Are you available to talk about that now? I would take that out of line under old business as first item if you are.
Yeah, if you want to, that's totally fine. I can do that.
Okay. All right. So, well, one thing, I don't know if you saw the email, Josh did get those videos posted and I was very excited to see them up there, even though I'd seen multiple drafts. They look great. And we know we're going to be doing more in the spring, we know, on those three. But Josh, we've had a much broader discussion about just the difficulty in finding those. Like where you put them that's the logical place. But there are so many different angles to get into the town website. And if you Googled parks, what do you come up with at this point? I don't know, but Michael's kind of identified where there are forks in the road that, if you come in under one boards and commissions, you get one thing. If you come in under open space plan, you get something other. And it's very confusing. And that it might be good if you, who we think are intimately involved with all this because of the committees, as well as someone from Parks and Rec, Open Space, the IT people, if there could be like a group. This was Michael's suggestion. So Michael, feel free to jump in and elaborate because you said it, you had given it a lot more thought last week than I had. And it's a great idea, I think, to try to just put our heads together and see the best way we could come up to really make this accessible to people so they can find it when they're just somebody who's Googling and doesn't know where to start on what particular location. Michael,
Yeah.
add anything in there if you'd like.
Yeah, I think it's relatively simple. I do know that obviously the sitemap of how the website is built and how it's organized, it's done in a specific way. It's not really built to, the site really isn't built to get into those deeper pages very easily. And you have to rely on search a lot. So my suggestion was taking the video files that we have finalized with the help of BTV and what we've produced so far and utilize the Town of Bridgewater YouTube channel and create a subdivision within the YouTube channel of Parks and Recreation um, and open space and have
Michael, we're losing you, Mike.
there. So then, yeah, hold on.
Okay.
Can you hear me now?
Yes,
Am I
Yep.
good? Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay.
yes.
So backtrack about 5 seconds. Essentially, the idea is to utilize the YouTube page for the Town of Bridgewater, create a subsection within it that is for parks/open space, upload the videos there, and then we will be able to share those wherever we need to, and we can collect viewing information. So obviously see how many views they're generating. Things like that. It will allow us also to embed them in other locations. It will allow us to share it out on social media much easier than linking to the website. And it opens to a wider audience by having it on YouTube. So that was, I think, my primary suggestion as to how we could post them and how we can make it more accessible for everybody. And I think that it would just obviously make things a lot easier for people to find, rather than digging through the website and sharing links directly. That was basically the gist of what I was thinking of. Maureen, Maureen or Eileen, if there was anything else that you wanted me to add to it, I think that was most of it of what we had discussed.
Yeah,
Unless
no, and I completely forgot the YouTube part too, so no, I'm glad you clarified that. Yeah, you have the idea. This is all foreign territory to me. I couldn't possibly talk about this intelligently, so. Anyway, Josh, if you have any reaction to that or any thoughts about whether it's doable, possible, would people talk to us about that? Josh, you're muted. Josh, you're muted. I can't hear him. Can anybody else?
I can't hear him.
No.
I can't.
Yeah.
There
All
you
right.
go.
How
now we
about,
can. All
There
right.
you
now
are.
we gotcha.
okay. Yep. Sorry about that. I don't know why I did that, but yeah. So no, I think that's a great idea. So I actually don't control the YouTube page. And I'm not as familiar as it sounds like Michael is. So what I would ask you to do, Michael, is actually put what everything you just said is as far as like you said there's subdivide it and then make a Parks and Rec like page off of it. If you could put that in an email to me, I can get that to IT with it and request it from them. And then they'll be able to go in and do everything that needs to be done on the YouTube side. And then I can make adjustments to the website as far as putting the link on there and then sharing it on Facebook and things like that.
Awesome. Yeah. No, that's great. I think that's a really good first step. I think that makes a lot of sense. I need to go back and double check my notes from our discussion in the last meeting to make sure that I actually talk about the other idea very intelligently. So what I'll do is we can once we get the YouTube part sorted out, we can work on the other item once that is sorted, and I'll have a actual proposal for that the next time that we meet that I could discuss with you.
Okay, great.
Mike, I don't know if you know, but the town recordings are all available. Like, so if you wanted to go back and just listen to that meeting and see what you said, you could do that too.
Yep, that's what I'm gonna do.
Yeah,
That was
okay.
my plan.
The other thing I just want to say, Josh, though, our impression is that IT is somewhat of a black hole. Is that
Well,
inaccurate?
and that's why I was saying if Michael sends it to me, then that way I can keep following up with it
All
rather
right.
than Michael sending it to them and it just kind of getting lost in the shuffle there.
Yeah.
I mean they are very busy. I don't know if they have any big projects going on, so it should be something that they can handle relatively quickly. But yeah, just keeping me in the loop of it is probably the best way to keep a follow-up going on it.
Okay, all right, sounds good. All right, all right, I think that's it. Other than I already mentioned, the videos have been posted, so I think we've covered publicity for now. So, Michael will go ahead and take the next step on that. Great, thanks, Mike.
And then
Sounds good.
if I can just add, I don't know if we have the publicity company as well. So once we get all that put together, then we can kind of hand it
Yeah.
off to them and get that
And,
outreach out.
and yes, thank you for reminding me, because that's the point I wanted to make. I was going to actually get to it when I report on my meeting with with the acting town manager. But
Oh, okay.
this is actually a better place to bring it up, because what I found out, actually I first found it out from Ray Ajemian, who's chair of the tree committee. He and I got together to talk about tree open space issues a couple weeks ago, and he mentioned to me that he had a meeting with Blythe, who's the acting town manager, and she mentioned that in response to his questions about how to get publicity about trees and activities and events, etc., she told him that the town had a publicity committee that provided their plans were within what was covered in that contract that we have with this existing company. The tree committee could use this PR firm to advance their own ideas and projects. And so I met with her on January 6th about a number of things and raised that with her. And she said, yeah, we could use it too. Open space can use it too. And that I have not contacted them yet. I wanted to bring it up here first, and because I'm thinking that maybe Michael might even be the contact for that. We can wait and see. I mean, I was going to talk with Ray too. I don't know if he's had any. Do you know if he's had any contact with them, Josh? Has he been in touch with you? Or
If he hasn't copied me.
yeah, okay.
But I'm sure he's at least got the ball rolling with them.
But my understanding is that they would assign somebody to work with us, and that we could, I don't know whether we come up with ideas, whether they come up with ideas, and what the scope of the existing contract is. But I thought that was great news, because we had no idea that that we had access to any kind of a PR firm. So has that always been in place, Josh? Has that always been available to us? We just didn't know? Or?
I don't think it's always been available. I think I'm not too familiar with it, but I'm pretty sure that they kind of just opened it up to everybody just to utilize, because we do have the contract with them, and we're not using it to the fullest extent essentially.
Yeah.
So we just kind of opened it up to all the committees and everything.
Great. Okay. All right. So it looks like there's some real possibility of getting some professional assistance there, which could be very helpful and useful. So, Mike, did you hear all that?
Yes, I did.
Okay, great. And I have an email from, I don't remember, Josh, if it was from you or it might be from Ray, or maybe it was Dawn, giving me the contact info for the company name. So I will forward that to you, Mike, and you and I can talk about, whether we want to just send them an email and then set up a meeting or something, or, just see how they want to work and how we would like to approach them and what we'd like to suggest.
Yeah, and if it's getting to be, too much on your plate and Michael's plate, I'm always happy to just take your ideas and take it to the company as well. So don't feel like you got to take all the weight of that on.
Oh, great. Okay. Yep.
Sounds good.
All right. All right. So let's move on to under old business item A, which we skipped over, which is the open space plan. So
Thank you, Josh.
You're welcome.
Things are not moving in this on this project. I think I reported last time, that a couple times ago, that we submitted a grant request to the state for $40,000, and Josh, do you need to get off, by the way?
I can stick around to just run the meeting if you'd like.
Oh, sure, yeah,
I'm just going to be doing some work in the background, but
okay.
if you need me, feel free to just say my name and I'll
Okay,
jump on.
great. Okay, all right. Okay, so anyway, Shane O'Brien in the Community Economic Development Committee is the person who's been shepherding this project. And I also talked with the assistant town manager when I met with her on January 6th and said, you know, nothing seems to be happening. We submitted the grant application. We haven't heard anything about it. It's been a couple months and we haven't gotten any word about whether they're going to act on it anytime soon. And so she sent an email, follow-up email to Shane after that. And basically what we're hoping might help is that if they let us spread the grant funds out over 2 fiscal years, it would give us more flexibility to get the plan accomplished after the 2025 fiscal year, because the plan is due at the end of June. So it's highly doubtful that we will be able to get it done by then. And anyway, so that's an option, is that but the caveat has to be that they would allow us to do that without any penalty, so that, you know, we're not going to be penalized for not having the plan if we are allowed to spend it over 2 years and take a longer time to get it done. And so we're just kind of stuck here. Shane said he's put in a number of calls and emails and he can't get anybody to even respond. And so one of the things he suggested is that we may want to start at least getting a task force together to kind of start the process without knowing if we're going to get the grant or not, and that we probably ought to meet with him if we want to do that and see if we can get things moving. So I just got that email from him this morning, so I'm not really prepared to propose anything yet, but I think we are, I'm unfortunately maybe going to end up having to do more on this plan than I was hoping we'd have to, because it's really, it's a lot of work. And having a consultant on board rather than town staff having to do it with us, or you know, I don't think they're going to get that much out of us personally. I'm just not willing to spend too much time on that planning effort. I'd much rather be working on some of the issues we've been doing. But anyway, that's kind of where it stands. And the other issue I wanted, well, okay, so you didn't, Maureen, I'm kind of glad you didn't have your meeting. So, yeah, because, okay, so I talked with Maureen yesterday afternoon, knowing she had a Community Preservation Committee Act meeting last night, but it was in fact not held. They for failure to have a quorum. So they're going to meet on Monday. So I may join you on that, because one of the questions that's come up is the Community Preservation Committee is also required to do to update their plans. And their plan is in process. It's going to be finalized within the next, couple of months, Maureen? And,
I would say so.
yeah, and it includes a open space plan component, because open space projects can be funded under the Community Preservation Grant, program rather. Including, you know, it also includes historic, active recreation like ball fields, things like that. So it's not, and historic. So it's something where we have gotten lots of funds. Like right now, it's $1.3 million of Community Preservation Act money that's helping do the Styles and Hart project. So they had to do a plan, and they've just completed it. And they've done public meetings. They've done public meetings on open space per se to get the public's input on that. They were working from a 5-year-old plan, and there's not a whole lot of new things to be said. A lot of it's just a repeat of what was done in 2020, which is likely to be the case with our open space plan as well. You know, there's not a whole lot changed. People's values haven't moved that much in 7 years. You know, they still want to preserve agricultural, they want open space, they want parks, they want things kept up, you know, amenities, such and all the things that we heard before. Some of them have been addressed, some of them have not. But I mean, one of the questions that's in my mind is, we just did this. I mean, Jennifer Goldson is a very experienced consultant who has worked with the town on their Community Preservation Act plans both 5 years ago and now. And they had public hearings, and it just seems like it's going to be entirely redundant for us as the open space
Exactly, yep.
plan now to do the same thing, to have public hearings on open space. It just happened within, the last 6 months. So I wanted to go to CPC, and I had suggested this to Maureen, also before I knew that the meeting was continued to next Monday. Is there some way that we can work with what they've done and work with the consultant that they've used to create whatever will satisfy our requirements under the state law for open space funding and grants, and not have to repeat everything, and also maybe not have to spend the funds on an entirely new consultant project, and certainly not hire a new consultant when this Jennifer Goldson firm has just gone through this whole thing with CPC. So I have no idea whether that's possible, but it certainly seems to me that it's something we got to look into, and particularly now when we're just getting really on the wire, pushed up to the deadline very quickly without a clear path of how we go forward without funding if we don't get some word that we have it granted. And even if we get it granted, it still seems like we don't want to waste it on an entirely redundant process. So anyway, that's where that stands. It's kind of a mess, really. And one of the questions that keeps coming up is why didn't we do the open space plan to provide to them for input into
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah, but the thing is, the open space plan requirements are for a new plan every 7 years. The Community Preservation Act requirements are for a new plan every 5 years. So they had to do theirs now, and it's just 2 years ahead of when we were required to update it. So ours was a 2017 plan. Theirs was a 2020 plan that they've now updated. So anyway, that's the reason for the schedule that they were required to operate under, as are we. So does anybody have any questions about that? It's kind of confusing.
Is that something you want to bring up at the meeting, or talk to Gina or Carlton prior to the meeting?
Yeah, that's a good idea. We should probably, yeah. Do you want to do that, Maureen? Should we try to set up a call together, or I can just call one of them, or maybe I'll just call Gina?
Whatever, yeah, whatever works, yeah.
Okay, all right. And it's Monday at 6:30 or 7?
6:30.
All right, Monday it's 6:30. All right. And I haven't even looked at my own calendar yet. I'm assuming I can make that. Okay.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, I'll see if Gina's, what her thoughts are, and then maybe you can join me with a call with her or her and Carl.
Sure.
So, okay, all right. Okay, anything else on that?
I have no questions. I think it sounds like you both have it well handled, even though it's an interesting situation. So
Right.
Yeah.
All right.
It
thanks.
seems so very, very redundant, the
Yeah.
action, because you already got the input from town. Why
Yeah.
would you have to do it 6 months later to the same people and it's probably the same people who would answer, who
Yeah.
answered for the CPA, so.
If they even would, they might just say, hey, you just, what the heck?
Yeah,
I I spent an evening going to these meetings. I wrote, I answered the questions, and now you're back. What's this about?
Yeah, yeah, why are you doing this again? Yeah.
Yeah. So, all right, so I'm going to move on to Wyman, North Fork Conservation Area. A little burp in the whole project came up over the last couple of weeks. I heard from Owen that he got a call from an adjacent landowner that she believed the trail was on her property. And in fact, it is. He discovered that he had made a mistake in his measurements. He was using his phone, which apparently was not 100% reliable, to plot the boundaries of the Wildlands Trust property. And they did, in fact, encroach on this woman's property for about 150 feet onto her property for a length of about, what did he tell me? I can't remember what he said about how exactly how long it was, 800 feet maybe, I think is what he said. But anyhow, he told me about it right away, and he shared with me an email he had sent to her, and this is on Wildlands property, not town property. And he sent her a very nice email and said, you know, they're quite used to encroachment issues, but usually it's landowners encroaching on their property, not vice
Yeah.
versa. Yeah. And he met with her and said she was absolutely very, very nice. You know, she's not a belligerent about this in any way. She's not angry about it. She mostly was concerned about hunters being able to come too close to her house. So he advised her that hunting is not allowed on the Wyman property there. And so he's got a work crew set to go out sometime next week, and they're going to start moving the trail. Basically,
Oh, really?
just
What
digging
part
it.
of the trail? Back
No,
back in.
it's back to, so it's, her property is on Plymouth Street. You know, her property blacks up to Plymouth, so I assume it's like at the
Far end.
northern point of it would be my
Oh,
guess.
that's too bad.
Yeah, yeah. So,
Wow.
but he seemed to think, you know, and the other happy news was that she's eager to work out with them, volunteer with Wildlands. She's got her convinced that it's a.
Well, that's good.
Yeah, Owen is a very good ambassador for that organization. He's really delightful. So anyway, so that was kind of a mess, but it seems to have worked out. The other thing is, when I met with Blythe, the assistant town manager, I asked her for some funds for Wyman to do a kiosk and a sign on the street. Wildlands is willing to get that done, but they were asking for the town to contribute $800 or so. And we did do that with some of the early work that they did. We got about, I think it was $600 to $800 informally. Michael Dutton recommended it, and Bob Ruley got the paperwork done in Community and Economic Development, and we were able to reimburse Wildlands for those expenses. So this is going to work through the similar way, and Blythe rather was fine with that. So, and Owen is sending me a more detailed invoice, an actual invoice and I think it's like $560 or something. This is just for the kiosk, and I think we're going to wait for the street sign for a while, because John Hart also told me that he is working on a lot on signage, and that the town has a consultant for that as well, which
Yeah.
So anyway, we'll see what he comes up with for that. But
Yeah, everything's supposed to be very consistent, I believe, right?
yeah, so that's the idea,
Same way
right?
from one part to the other.
Yeah. Now, Wyman, of course, may be a little different just because there's two organizations involved. You know,
Right.
it's going to say
Right.
some things that the others might not, but generally, I mean, at least those kiosks went up in like 2001 or something, and they were all built with the same design. At least they all seem to have the same sort of roof shape, and so that's good. But
There used to be another path out through the back there. Is that gonna stay, or is it gonna just be allowed to grow
no,
over?
all right. So that's the other question. One of the things I wanted, I've talked to Gina about on Community Preservation Committee, and I also talked with Owen about this, is what funds can we get to open up the rest of that property, the Wyman property, the town property, particularly that doesn't have trails on it, or that has trails that have been there for 20 years and totally overgrown. Because John was very interested in it, Owen's very interested in it, I think we're interested in it, and whether Owen can get the volunteers to do it again, you know, I don't know. We haven't had a specific conversation about it. He's eager to do it, but it's again just one more project for them, whether they have the time and to do it or when. You know, we can probably come up with some kind of a work plan, and probably would need to get somebody to lay out some possible trailways out there. I don't know what's likely or there are some large wet areas, I think. You know, do we want to go big and talk about some kind of a footbridge? And then, so it raises the question is, where do the funds come from, and whether Community Preservation Committee funds are available for creating trails on existing open space. And that's not completely clear to me. And Gina, it wasn't completely clear to Gina. There's some language. I looked at the draft plan that you steered me to yesterday, Maureen, and I can't figure it out. You know, I'm not sure exactly what word we don't, I don't see the exact word that makes it clear that you can create new trails, but you can, you can't, but you can, I think that you can't restore, but you can, anyway, we just need to get some clarification. And she suggested we talk to somebody in the state. She was actually going to talk to somebody in the state CPC office. So that's the other question related to that is if we want to go ahead and expand those trails, which seems like a great idea. How do we do it? How do we pay for it? Okay. All right. Is Pat still on with us?
I am.
Pat, would you like to give us a tree committee report?
Well, there's actually not a lot to tell. At the last meeting, we discussed having another forum in the spring. So that will happen, and the subject will probably be the same as last year, which is planting trees and trying to spread awareness that you can't just cut down a tree in your front yard, things of that nature. And we went over the actual tree list that we have submitted to our planning board so that they can, go over that with developers that come in. And that's pretty much what I can recall right now.
Was there any discussion about the availability of this public relations firm?
No discussion whatsoever.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I was wondering how much, how many town people are aware of the new regulations as far as the tree committee is.
Well, I think they're just old regulations, Maureen,
They
and
haven't changed that much?
no, well, any new regulations are still under review.
Okay.
So they haven't become public yet. But nobody knows a step to take or the process, even I don't know. And I've asked about that at almost every meeting that we have. So that we can educate the public. I have to know what it is.
Does this have to go into Boston to get approved, something like that?
I don't think so. I think our attorney has to review it and give his okay. And then it can be probably presented to our town council for their okay. So that's probably all I have to report, but if you have any questions you think I can answer, please go ahead.
All right. Thank you, Pat. Pat, anything else to report on Lake Nip? And I know you were, the group was filing an appeal to the state. Has that been filed?
It has definitely been filed, and I heard through the grapevine that we probably won't hear anything in response to that appeal for months.
Yeah, okay.
So I guess that's the route that they usually take.
And are they constrained from any activity during that time? I mean, is the developer prohibited from moving ahead with any on the ground work?
They won't be able to do anything until they get approvals, although they did get approval from the Concom.
Right, but I mean, until the state appeal is resolved, they can't do anything.
I honestly don't know. Probably not. Probably
okay.
not. But there's a Concom meeting tonight, which I will attend because there were a couple of issues with that Claremont property. Actually, the previous development, when they violated a no-touch area.
Right.
That might be discussed tonight, so I'll want to tune into that.
Okay.
And there was one other, an open meeting violation that was filed by one of the Concom members. They might discuss that tonight too. So we'll see.
An open meeting violation by whom?
It was filed by a Concom member against probably Mr. Ruley.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So it's kind of interesting.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens. Probably nothing.
Okay. All right, reorganization of the Open Space Committee. I don't think there's really no report on that. I mentioned last time that Michael and I had agreed that we would wait until we have a new town manager in place before we let him take over the chairmanship. I mean, so. All right, Hanson Farm, I did hear, let's see, what did I hear? Things are moving ahead. There was a milestone that was met, but I can't remember what it is now. Might have been that one of the grants was approved or something was submitted or something, I don't know. But anyway, it's on target and moving ahead. All right, says North Street property for sale, Murray needs access. This is somewhat of a it's somewhat old, but again, it's not something we've discussed in the past few months. Michael, I don't know if you recall that there's a Murray Needs farm on North Street that was preserved about more than 10 years ago, and it's adjacent to it. There's been a 7.6 acre parcel for sale, and for a couple years now, and I've raised it. We've had discussions on it, I think, on this call, as well as I know I talked to Michael Dutton about it, and the Hansons were very interested in having at least some, if not all of that 7 point whatever acres that were being sold preserved, because it's so close to their farm, and also it's adjacent to the Murray Needs farm, which is a beautiful open area, and it's also adjacent to some other wooded areas in the back that it's close to David Hanson's property that he hopes to conserve at some point. So. And then the other big issue in my mind is that Murray Needs has absolutely no public access. There's a trail there that isn't really maintained at all. It's along a rock wall on the side of a field that's actually farmed, and it's not accessible other than kind of going through that bush right on the field where you're not supposed to be walking. But the bigger issue is that there's absolutely no parking.
Right.
We met out there years ago when we first convened just to take a look at it. We had to park on the sidewalk, and it's a very unsafe situation and really inhibits people from going out there. And so it seems crucial to me that before this property is sold and or developed, that the town gets something carved out for a parking lot for Murray Needs, and possibly a trail on the other side of that field, so it doesn't require walking on the field. And Michael was not opposed to that at the time. I think I talked with Bob Ruley about it. Nobody was opposed to it, but the price for the property was so ridiculously high that no one was willing to talk with them. And David Hanson did talk to the owner at one point, and he said she didn't seem to have any interest in any kind of preservation of any of the land. It looks like one of the corner lot, there's a small house that some of you who go down 104 may have noticed is being renovated. It looks like that part of the parcel has been carved out and sold, but there's still a for sale sign on the rest of it. So anyway, I don't know exactly how to go about this, but I think we want to take some action to have a plan as to what some kind of a parking lot or an additional number of right of way along that the back end of this property that's for sale could look like, to provide access to that Murray Needs property. And whether we try to work with the current landowner, or whether it would be better to wait till the property is in fact sold and then work with a new landowner, not knowing what anybody's designs on that project are going to be. I believe it's zoned for residential. It has that slaughterhouse on it, but my understanding is it's not available for any kind of commercial activity going forward. So anyway, I'm kind of scratching my head like who to talk to first. The Hansons have been my biggest source of information about it up till now. I'm thinking of possibly just calling the realtor and trying to find out what is actually for sale now and what the price is. Blythe wasn't really familiar with the issue, and so there's really not going to be any activity coming out of the town manager's office. And so that's kind of where it stands. If anybody has any bright ideas, or Pat, maybe you can tell me, is that District 2?
Probably 7.
7, okay.
Yeah. Now that we've split up our precincts or districts, I'm in 7 and it's a huge area.
Okay.
And I think it covers that area as well.
And
So
who is the council member?
our counselor would be probably Sonia Striggles.
Okay.
But are you thinking, well, I know you said you spoke to the owner, she wasn't interested. She wasn't interested in selling or donating.
She wasn't interested in any kind of a donation or with working in the town to set something aside. And it wasn't me who talked to her, it was David Hanson. So I was only getting that information.
Oh, okay.
And
So,
that was quite a few years ago now too, so.
uh-huh. So you could maybe draw out a portion that you might want to buy?
Exactly, just some narrow,
Hmm.
something wide enough for, well, it probably would involve some kind of an access road. to park
Access
lot.
and parking for 4, 6
yeah.
cars, something.
Yeah.
Okay.
And, one of the suggestions that had come up, or when I talked with whomever, I think the town manager, Michael Dutton, about it, was that there were 3 houses on that property facing North Street, and then there's the acreage behind it, and that conceivably, if the town could buy that property and then sell off the 3 houses, they might be able to recoup
Oh,
most of what the cost would be, and then own the back area for open space adjacent to Murray Needs, and so anyway, that's
it's a good thought.
yeah, and that was actually David Hanson's idea, which I thought was really good. But again, that was a couple years ago, and they've just been so involved in all of the legal and paperwork for their own farm. I don't think he's really had any more time to devote to it. But.
Right.
All right. Well, if anybody has any bright ideas about who to talk to or who the movers and shakers on North Street are, or District 7, if that's who would be involved. Yeah, anyway, I'm as I say, I'm scratching my head a little bit, so I'm going to just keep talking and see if somebody gives me some idea. Just start making phone calls, I guess, till I hit on some approach and see if it.
Yeah.
I can't think of anybody. The only thing I will say is that, I feel like the Hansons would be the ones who would be able to do convincing and discussing, considering their length of time that they've been there and that they are essentially neighbors. So that's my only 2 cents is if they weren't able to make any progress, I'm not sure who else would be able to, unless it was.
Yeah. And then my only new thought about all of that is just that time has passed, and it was a couple of years ago, I think, when they did approach, when they're very interested in kind of actively pursuing it, and then they've got diverted, and maybe as the paperwork winds down on their own project, they might be able to jump into this and give me a bit more direction. But yeah, I mean, they are, but it's got, it has to come through the town too. The town has to. And one good thing that has happened is it did come up during the planning process for the Community Preservation Act open space plan component. It's in the notes there that people have suggested that we need parking at Murray Needs, and that something should be done. So, that might be a place for me to start discussions too, is just talk with them and see what their thoughts might be about CPC funds for that effort.
Well, I think I read when I was reading through it, that they can't pay more than the property's worth, and if they're overpricing themselves, then it'll be a challenge. You'd have to get them, the owners, to drop the price significantly, I guess.
That was a big part of the issue. Yeah, thanks for reminding me of that. Yeah, because you can only pay the appraisal value. I mean, that came up with the whole Hanson Farm transaction too, I know, and that this property, that with the $2.7 million, most people thought was just way overpriced.
Much. Yeah.
But again, whether they've come down, it used to be listed on Realtor.com and it's not anymore. And the sign is still out there. So. All right, so that's that. I've kind of already talked about the meeting with the town manager on multiple counts. I can't think if there was anything else I should mention about that. We did talk about, there's a discussion going on within the town budgeting process about increased hours for John Hart, the parkland steward.
Oh, good.
Increasing, he currently works 13 hours. I don't know what's being suggested, but I think there's a discussion about that. And there's also discussion about the need for a tree warden, and that's
Right.
coming for the council at some of the meetings, and the tree committee is pushing that. In a way, the two proposals are kind of competing with each other for limited funds, of course, because
Right.
my understanding from what she said is they don't feel like they have the money for either. But the tree warden issue, I think, came up at a recent town council meeting, which I did not hear, wasn't at, but that the acting town manager did make a report that was somewhat favorable towards the need to have a tree warden, which actually I understand is a state requirement for
Right.
towns. Yeah. So.
And then have I heard correctly that there may be a movement to do another override because funding is so lacking in town?
I don't know anything about that. No.
You haven't heard that? Okay.
No. All right, I think that's it. That Summer Street gas station park status, if you remember that, we completed a survey on that a while ago. I think they're still seeking an architect to work on the final design, so that's not a lot of progress there. Anyway, I think that was about it. So, and we kind of already talked about the CPC plan update. Unless anybody else wants to add anything about that, we discussed that with the context of the open space plan.
Nope, I'm good.
And then the last item, I included legal protection of existing open space, just because that came up at I think it was a CPC meeting I listened in on, or maybe one of the public, I think it was that task force I was on. I think somebody asked like how well protected are some of the places that we have as open space, and are they, actually legally protected? And I know the existing open space plan does include a chart that shows the level of protection about each one of those spaces. I haven't looked at it in years. But what I was happy to notice when I was reviewing what you sent me, the link you sent me to the draft CPC plan, Maureen, is that they have looked at that in the consultant in the update for the CPC plan has looked at all of the open space land legal protections, and I didn't see anything, a chart of any sort, but there had a very high number, that something like 90% of them were considered legally adequately protected. So anyway, so they apparently have done some work on that already. So I'll follow up with them to the extent that I think that's worth pursuing, but it may be that it's all pretty well covered. So, all right, anything else to discuss? Anybody?
Nope.
No. When's our next meeting? Oh, February 20th, 2 p.m. All right. Is there a motion to adjourn?
I can make the motion.
All right.
I'll second it.
All right. And I third it. All right. Thank you for calling in, Michael.
Yep. Sorry.
Appreciate it.
Sorry. It's just how it worked out this week, but hopefully next month it will be, I'll be able to be in real life, in video, etc.
You were present. That's all that matters.
That's all that matters. Yep. We had a quorum. That's what we need. Thank you to Maureen and Pat for your consistency, and Josh for your technical assistance. All right.
Thank you.
We're done. Bye,
Have a good
everybody.
one.
All right, bye.